The kitchen light spilled into the hallway where I stood frozen, a box of old photographs balanced against my hip. My mother's voice cut through the walls, casual and certain, like she was discussing weekend plans. "We'll wait until Megan's overseas. 3 weeks is plenty of time to get a locksmith in there, clear out her stuff, and get it listed. $1 million wipes out Tiffany's credit cards and sets her up somewhere decent." My father's response came quick, approving. "The market's hot right now. We could close before she even lands back in the States. By then it's done." The box slipped. I caught it before it hit the floor, my fingers white-knuckled against the cardboard. They were talking about my grandfather's penthouse, the one he'd left to me, the only thing in 34 years that had ever been mine alone. My name is Megan Hartwell. I'm 34, and I spent most of my life getting the leftovers while my sister got everything on a silver platter. This is the story of how I turned their trap into my justice. I pressed my back against the wall, heart slamming so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Through the doorway, I watched my father's shadow shift as he pulled out his phone. "I'll call Tiffany's cousin Nicole tomorrow. She can help with the moving. We'll tell her it's temporary, that Tiffany just needs a place to crash for a bit. She won't ask questions." My mother nodded, already mentally spending money that wasn't hers. Tiffany's been drowning since that trip to Cabo and that shopping spree last month. She needs this fresh start. Megan has her career. She can find something smaller. Something smaller. Like the cramped studio I'd lived in for years while they funded Tiffany's photography hobby, her gap year in Europe, her finding herself phase that never seemed to end. The betrayal tasted metallic, like blood in my mouth from biting the inside of my cheek to keep silent. They weren't just planning to take my home, they were plotting it with the same casual certainty they'd used my whole life when redirecting resources to my sister. I slipped out the front door before they could discover me, the box of photographs forgotten in my car. The drive back to the penthouse felt like moving through water. Chicago's lights blurred past as I replayed their words, each phrase landing like a punch. Hire a locksmith, clear out her things, list it before she knows. They'd been so confident, so matter-of-fact, like stealing from their own daughter was just another item on a to-do list. When I finally stepped into the penthouse, the familiar scent of old books and polished wood wrapped around me like armor. My grandfather's space. Papa Victor had lived here for 30 years, and every corner held a piece of him. The floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan, the grand piano he loved to dust but rarely played, the shelves lined with leather-bound novels he'd read to me during childhood summers, while my parents were off at Tiffany's dance recitals. He'd seen the truth about our family long before I fully understood it. He watched how my father Derek and my mother Sandra poured everything into Tiffany, 6 years younger, and somehow always the sun around which our family orbited. When Tiffany wanted dance lessons at 10, my parents signed her up for the most expensive studio in the city without blinking. I was 16 then, trying to scrape together dues for the debate club, a fraction of what they spent on her. My father shook his head, said money was tight that year. The next week, they surprised Tiffany with a new laptop. I learned to stop asking. My straight A report cards earned a glance before my father turned to praise Tiffany's finger paintings like they belonged in the Art Institute. My mother's eyes only lit up when discussing my sister's latest passion project, so I worked. Library shifts, tutoring on weekends, covering the extras they claimed we couldn't afford for me. Papa Victor noticed everything. He'd slip into my room with a slice of pie or invite me downtown for weekends at the penthouse. He taught me chess by that window overlooking the lake, telling me to think several moves ahead and never reveal my strategy too soon. He celebrated my wins, the scholarship I earned myself, the internship I landed with no connections, all while my parents were off at Tiffany's recitals. "They love the version of themselves they see in her," he once whispered, "the creative, charming one who reflects their dreams. In you, they see the practical, independent side they'd rather not acknowledge. It scares them because it reminds them of their own limitations." When I graduated college with honors, working nights to pay tuition, Papa Victor was the only one in the audience. My parents sent a card, busy with Tiffany's latest adventure overseas. Now the penthouse was mine, not just property, proof that someone had truly seen me. And they wanted to steal it to bail out my sister's shopping addiction. The rage crystallized into something colder, sharper. They assumed I'd be halfway across the ocean, oblivious to their scheme. They didn't know I would never board that plane, and they certainly didn't know what would be waiting for them when they walked through that door. 3 days passed before the weekly family dinner. I spent them planning, rehearsing my performance, and retrieving the box of photographs from my car. Old photos of me and Papa Victor from the summers he'd been my sanctuary. I placed them on the mantel in the penthouse where they belonged. At the next family dinner, I played my part perfectly. My mother's spread covered the table. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, the green beans Tiffany always requested. My father carved the meat. Tiffany chatted about her latest project. Nicole had joined us, last minute as usual, bringing wine and good intentions. I waited until conversation lulled before mentioning it casually. My company just confirmed a big client meeting in London, 3 weeks in Europe, flying out Friday, back mid-month. My mother's fork froze. 3 weeks? That's a long time. Are you sure you can be away? Important account, I said, helping myself to more potatoes. They want in-person presentations. My father wiped his hands, nodding. Europe in the fall isn't bad. You'll get decent weather. Tiffany's smile didn't reach her eyes. Sounds exciting. Where are you staying? Hotel near the office district. Nothing fancy, but convenient. I watched them exchange glances. Quick, subtle, the kind of silent communication parents think their children don't notice. I noticed. Friday morning arrived gray and cold. Instead of heading to O'Hare, I drove to a hotel in the Loop. The clerk handed me a key card without a second glance. The room overlooked the river, anonymous and perfect for surveillance. I'd ordered the cameras online days earlier, delivered to the hotel under my company name. That evening, I slipped into the penthouse through the service entrance, avoiding the main lobby where neighbors might spot me. The cameras were small, legal, blending with the decor. I placed them in the living room, hallway, and kitchen, covering every entry point, every angle. The app showed crystal clear feeds with full audio, motion alerts configured to notify me instantly. I called the non-emergency police line next, explaining the situation calmly. The officer listened to the recording I'd made, their voices clear, their plan explicit, and took it seriously. He gave me a case number and promised a unit would be ready to respond when the alerts triggered. I provided secure access to the live camera feed. Then I waited. 2 days later, the notification chimed. A locksmith van pulled up to the building. My father met the driver at the door, gesturing toward the entrance while my mother scanned the street for witnesses. Tiffany arrived minutes later with empty boxes. Nicole followed, looking uncomfortable but staying silent. They gathered in the lobby, took the elevator up. The locksmith knelt by my door, tools clicking as he worked the smart lock. My chest tightened watching them, my own family standing in my hallway, breaking into my home. The lock clicked open. They filed inside like they belonged there. My mother headed straight for my bedroom. Tiffany pulled books from shelves, stacking them in boxes. Nicole hesitated at the entryway before starting to wrap kitchen items. My father dialed his phone. "Yes, it's vacant now," he said to whoever answered. "We can get photos tomorrow and list it by the end of the week." I called the police. "They're inside," I told the officer. "I'm watching them right now." The response was immediate. Within minutes, 2 officers appeared in my hallway feed, badges visible. They knocked firmly. "Chicago Police, open the door." The camera caught everything. My father turned first, his face going gray. My mother dropped a box, my grandmother's china shattering against the floor. Tiffany froze with my sweater bunched in her hands, eyes wide with the shock of someone who's never faced a consequence in her life. Nicole backed against the wall, mouth open. "We have a report of unauthorized entry," the officer said. "Step back and identify yourselves." My father tried to recover. "This is a family matter. We have access." The officer held up his phone, the recording already playing. Their own voices filled the room, planning the break-in, discussing the locksmith, talking about selling my home before I returned. They separated everyone for questioning. The locksmith was called back as a witness. Officers documented the scene, boxes packed with my belongings. The real estate agent on speaker. The clear evidence of criminal intent. They issued citations for criminal trespass. My father stood silent for once. My mother covered her face. Tiffany started crying, finally understanding that actions have consequences. Nicole stared at the floor. The officers warned them to leave immediately and not return. The group filed out, boxes abandoned, the locksmith shaking his head as he followed. The door closed. The penthouse fell quiet. I sat back in my hotel room, adrenaline fading into exhaustion. The line had been crossed, and there was no going back. By the following week, the story had taken on a life of its own. News spread fast through Chicago's connected circles. The building's app buzzed with posts about police cars at the penthouse level. Neighbors speculated about family disputes. Friends texted asking if everything was okay. I kept responses short, a legal matter being handled. The fallout hit Tiffany first. Her marketing firm had strict policies about personal conduct affecting company reputation. Someone in our social circle posted about the police presence on a neighborhood forum, and one of Tiffany's co-workers recognized the family name. The story spread through their office within days. Within a week, they let her go. My parents hired a lawyer, filing suit to contest the will. They claimed Papa Victor had been influenced, that he'd lacked capacity when signing. The paperwork arrived at my hotel demanding my appearance. My attorney reviewed everything and almost laughed. The will was ironclad, notarized, witnessed by medical professionals confirming his sound mind, language leaving the penthouse to me, alone with no ambiguity. Court dates came and went. My parents' lawyer pushed for discovery, requested records, filed motions. Every attempt failed. Nicole provided a deposition admitting she'd been asked to help move items, but hadn't known about the locksmith or the sale plan. Her testimony weakened their case further. The judge dismissed claims of undue influence. Legal fees mounted. Over $10,000 my parents hadn't anticipated spending. The public nature of the filing fueled more online discussion. Tiffany struggled to find work, her resume tainted. She moved back home with my parents. The financial help they'd planned to give her reversed. Now they needed help themselves. My father stopped attending community events. My mother avoided social gatherings where questions might arise. Tiffany sent one message 3 weeks after the arrest, a half apology that blamed circumstances more than herself. "You know I was desperate," she wrote. "Mom and Dad said it would work out for everyone." I didn't respond. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. A message came from Nicole one afternoon. She apologized for getting involved, said she'd believed it was just temporary help for Tiffany. Seeing the police changed everything for her. She asked if we could talk. I read her words several times. They were sincere, but the hurt ran deep. I thanked her politely and said I needed space. Not harsh, just firm. The boundary I had to set. The final hearing confirmed the will's enforcement. My parents paid court costs on top of their own expenses. No appeal followed. The months after brought a silence I never expected. The calls stopped. The messages dried up. The family group chat excluded me without a word. My mother attempted one final call the week after the court ruling, but I let it ring. There was nothing left to say that wouldn't unravel me. Tiffany learned to stand on her own for the first time, taking freelance gigs, living at home, facing reality without a safety net. My parents dealt with financial strain and social isolation, tightening their budget in ways they'd never experienced. I moved back into the penthouse, the space feeling larger and more peaceful without the tension. I rearranged furniture, added plants to the balcony, and turned Papa Victor's study into a home office. One weekend, cleaning out a drawer, I found an envelope tucked behind old files. His handwriting on the front, my name in careful script. Inside was a letter dated just months before he passed. He wrote about watching me grow into someone resilient and kind despite the imbalances at home. He praised the way I'd handled challenges alone, earning every achievement through effort. He explained the penthouse was his way of giving me a foundation, a place where I could always feel chosen. "You are enough, Megan. You always were. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." I sat in his chair, the letter in my hands, tears coming without warning. For years I'd measured myself against the attention Tiffany received, wondering what I lacked. Papa Victor had always known the truth. The tears were for losing him, for the family I thought I had, for the relief of finally releasing that weight. The silence that followed felt different after that. Not empty, but freeing. No more waiting for approval that would never come. No more justifying my choices. The penthouse became truly mine. I hosted friends for dinners, worked late with the lake view as company, tended the plants Papa Victor had loved. Their choices led to consequences they couldn't escape. Financial strain, social isolation, the realization that favoritism has a cost. For me, the lesson was simpler. I deserved the space Papa Victor gave me, and I no longer needed their validation to claim it. Family isn't always blood. It's the people who see your worth without conditions. Thank you for staying until the end. If you've ever faced something similar, family pressure, betrayal, or the fight to protect what's rightfully yours, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Sharing these experiences reminds us we're not alone. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.